Sup, homos? This is a guest video by Hoodie Demon. If you like it, be sure to subscribe to him. The link will be in the description box. Also, if you get an erection that lasts more than 4 hours after watching the video, don't worry, that's completely normal. Hoodie Demon videos just do that to you.
So, sometimes you know what you know, and sometimes you know what you don't know, and sometimes, as the Firesign Theater says, everything you know is wrong.
Oh boy.
You know that you're wrong, but you fear you're right. You suspect you're out of sync. You think that you're out of your mind. Everything you know is wrong.
Despite being decades removed from the Cold War, McCarthyism, and Red Scares, communism is still a dirty word in American politics and society today. That's thanks in large part to a total lack of understanding that Americans have when it comes to communism.
Wow. That's actually kind of amazing. Did you guys see that? He perfectly summed up why capitalism is so hated in America today.
And many of the people who don't understand communism also don't understand the true nature of capitalism.
Irony.
So if you think that only communist governments rely on violence, or that capitalism is synonymous with individuality, then everything you know is wrong.
Oh look, a journalist presenting their conclusion before they present their argument. Totally not trying to poison the well or anything.
Joining me now is Jesse Meyerson, journalist and contributor to Salon.com and Rolling Stone magazine. Jesse, welcome back.
Oh wow, Rolling Stone and Salon. Let's get a round of applause, guys. These guys were actually able to dig deep and find someone who not only clearly knows their economics, but is clearly unbiased and does not have an agenda whatsoever.
Thanks for having me back, Tom.
Your most recent piece for Salon, which was brilliant, by the way, is titled Why You're Wrong About Communism, 7 Misperceptions About It and Capitalism. And I think, frankly, the misperceptions about capitalism are even more important than the misperceptions about communism. But, let's just touch on some of this stuff. First of all, what do you see as the most pernicious of the misperceptions about both communism and capitalism?
Well, the main thing that I've been getting over the last month since the 5 economic reforms piece that I had in Rolling Stone is the simple invocation by right-wingers of the name Stalin or Mao as though that performs some sort of like argumentative work, when of course it doesn't, because if you want to invoke the human rights atrocities that happened under communist governments, then I'm afraid you've also got to account for the human rights atrocities that happen under capitalist governments. And
Capitalist governments, huh? Well, let's look at the definition of capitalism, shall we? Capitalism, noun, an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state. Sorry, buddy, but as we look at the basic dictionary definition of capitalism, we can see and conclude for a fact that there has never been, nor will there ever be, any such thing as a capitalist government.
And nobody's prepared to do that. And the thing that I found out with this piece, the one in Salon, comparing the two, is that people like me who are willing to acknowledge that there were horrors that happened under communist dictatorships, the Great Chinese Famine and the gulags and stuff like that, we're willing to admit that, whereas the defenders of capitalism either ignore or deny the atrocities that happened under capitalism. And when you confront them on it, it's like total cognitive dissonance.
What and double what? What the fuck are you talking about? Every single time I have ever seen a communist confronted with the Gulag or the Great Chinese Famine, they plug their ears and scream, "Not real communism." And as we've just seen, capitalism, by its very definition, is market anarchy. Meaning, if something bad happens in a capitalist country, if it involves the government in any way, it's not the fault of capitalism. It's as simple as that.
Because we've been taught in this country, frankly, that capitalism is, in every case and everywhere in the world, liberatory and righteous, and that communism is the great evil. And, that neither of those is really backed up by the history.
Triple and quadruple what? My entire school life, from kindergarten to 12th grade, the only thing my teachers fed me was about how capitalism is horrible and evil, and about how Marx had some really good ideas that just weren't implemented very well. And I don't know what documentaries or diaries you're watching or reading, but the statement, communism is evil, It's abso-fucking-lutely backed up by history.
So what are the horrors of capitalism?
Well, I mean, there's so many. You know, at the very beginning of industrial capitalism, when Britain really had its first stirrings of the Industrial Revolution, the great commodity that was really fueling industrialism was textiles. And anybody who knows where cotton was coming from in the you know, late 1700s and early 1800s knows that capitalism therefore thrived on the Atlantic slave trade. Not to mention the extermination of the indigenous population of this country, this book by Mike Davis, Late Victorian Holocaust, which talk about basically British imperialist starvation and not just British, but European imperialist starvation and slaughters in Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America.
Being allowed to own your own business and hire people at wages you both agree upon whilst not giving them ownership of your company, plus what equals war, slaughter, and genocide? Please fill in the blank for me so I can explain to you why it's bullshit.
And then, of course, all the various massacres and coups and you know, horrors perpetrated by the U.S., the CIA, and its allies, its proxies all over the world to defeat communism after the Second World War.
So, because there was a time in history where governments allowed slaving and slave trading, a system completely independent of government is evil? I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the connection.
Including, you know, the movie that is now nominated for an Oscar, the documentary The Act of Killing, which details how 1 million so-called communists in Indonesia were killed. Their names supplied by the CIA. I mean, these are things that, you know, good patriotic Americans are never asked to account for.
What the okay, this guy has officially just completely lost the plot. Far be it from me to repeat myself. Yeah, right. But I'm gonna do it anyway. A system whose very definition tacitly implies market anarchy, that is what's responsible for the CIA, a branch of government, supplying names of people who likely didn't do anything wrong but were killed anyway. What the fuck, dude?
Because we're simply told that, like I remember my third grade teacher telling me that communism and democracy were opposites. I can see now how ridiculous that is, and we can see the terrible bankruptcy of intellectual understanding that education like that causes when I release a piece like this and
So
get
what
all
are
this
the
ridiculous backlash from the right.
What are the
Yeah, there is quite a few problems that education that intellectually bankrupt causes. It creates idiots like you who don't understand economics because you refuse to study it because of the fact that it doesn't have a disciplined mold the way science does. So you attribute technological advancement to scientific advancements at the time, and you don't attribute it to the conditions under which those advancements took place. And then you idiots are unleashed into the world so bankrupt with economic education that you actually think communism is okay and can work.
the components of communism that we should seriously have a conversation about integrating into the American body politic and economic?
I would say that the two big things that I really want to struggle for over my lifetime, that I consider basically approaches towards communism, is decommodifying everything.
Tried that, didn't work.
You know, we see in the United States that everything, including like caring for other people and all of the things that we find essential to our lives need to be priced in order to be exchanged in markets. And I just don't think that that's true. I mean, I think that lots of things are inherently valuable and ought to be treated that way, and shouldn't be treated like they're just commodities for exchange.
Holy shit! How does that level of idealism even exist? It's so far off base. That would be like if you tried to learn how to draw and instead you caught herpes. What the shit, dude?
And then the other thing is work.
Tried that, didn't work.
I mean, the CBO report that came out saying that 2 or 3 million people are going to leave work because like they're not hostage to work anymore because they have health care. That's a good thing.
Yay! The economy we worked for decades to build is starting to come apart at the seams due to socialist policies. Yay!
The more that we can free people from the tyranny, not just of, I mean, libertarians have it right that governments can be tyrannical. Obviously, that's true. But the other thing that's tyrannical that libertarians won't acknowledge is the tyranny of work. You know, we live in this democracy, but we put ourselves in tyranny for 8 hours a day. They can fire you, and if you don't have a job, you're basically cut off from the means of your own subsistence. So liberating people from that second tyranny of work and making sure that people can live a full life and produce culture and community.
Oh, look, Yet another communist who cannot present a logical argument devoid of emotion as to why he deserves food, water, clothing, and shelter for sitting on his ass and not contributing to society.
Without having to work for a boss that's trying to work them harder and pay them less in order to get rich.
Oh, and he doesn't understand how business operates either. What a shock. I didn't see that coming at all.
That's really the essence, I think, of a socialist or if you prefer, communist vision.
Do you think one way to start moving in that direction is this movement that is the Swiss are going to be voting on this in the next few months of a guaranteed minimum income? There's a variation of it actually going on in Alaska with a permanent fund. Everybody, man, woman, child, baby, everybody gets $2,000 a year.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't see a step forward from a meaningful step forward from capitalism to a more liberatory, fulfilling economic system that doesn't include a universal basic income.
Yeah, I mean, come on. It doesn't matter if we guarantee that people are going to get paid to do nothing at all. I mean, there's no way everybody's going to stop working. I mean, because people are going to get bored. Why would anybody want to get paid for doing nothing, right? Right?
I think that's absolutely crucial. I think it's best paired with a job guarantee for several reasons, but basically it makes, whereas right now what we have is involuntary unemployment, millions of people who want a job and can't find them, and involuntary employment, where there's millions of people who want to quit their job but can't because they need the pension or they need health care or whatever. We want to move to a system that has voluntary employment and voluntary unemployment, and I think that's really, really crucial. A universal basic income will be necessary for that sort of emancipatory transformation.
All you people do is complain about how you're quote-unquote slaves at your job. Why the fuck would you continue to work if you're guaranteed pay for nothing?
Jesse Meyerson, thanks so much. It's a brilliant analysis.
Thanks, Tom.
Now, everything you know about communism is right.
Wow, that was spoopy. He sounded like he was genuinely trying to be convincing. I wonder if there was a subliminal message there we all absorbed. Must spread communism.
Guys, do not forget to subscribe to Hoodie Demon. Link in the description box. While you're at it, subscribe to Shane Killian as well. Both YouTubers are better than me. Let's do this. Subscribe. Do it now, bitch!